constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the just as the score the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is saved. Saved at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baseline that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right end batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Gets it goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the show. It's Free for All Friday. I'm Dan Scott. That's for Stulting. Overcast is the word. Hazy. Can't see the top of Paris Mountain.
No, it's
today.
there though.
It's there, but kind of surprised this morning when I woke up and saw what kind of start we were off to. But if anything, it makes for a little better lighting situation.
Absolutely,
in the studio.
yeah. Not really glaring your eyes too much.
At least.
Yeah.
Everything all right?
Oh, doing great, Dan. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Happy to be here. Got a good show lined up for you today. A lot of stuff to get to. We'll be previewing Furman and VMI, which will be the Paladins game here tomorrow at 1 o'clock at Paladin Stadium. Also, a look at some potential upsets in the world of college football and Major League Baseball playoffs. The poor Washington Nationals still cannot get out of the first round.
They can't buy a break. Man.
Yeah,
They just can't buy a break.
And even had the rule book working against them
yesterday
did. When it should have been working for them.
Yep.
But in any event, we've got that. Got some Ezekiel Elliott news to digest, and also just don't know exactly how all this is going to come down yet. But right about now, North Carolina's date with destiny is supposed to happen. The penalties handed down by the NCAA are supposed to be released after this multi-year investigation that was started, stopped, rebooted, started all over again. All of that is supposed to come down now, so we may have some information here shortly that we'll be able to get out to you. And then, of course, as the day goes on, you'll have plenty of more opportunity to digest a lot of it. It's going to be very interesting to see what the NCAA does here, because I can promise you, just from all the years of covering the ACC on a daily basis, I know that there are a lot of people, particularly who wear orange, who believe that in the end North Carolina is going to get off with a slap on the wrist. They don't believe that the NCAA will drop the hammer on one of the quote-unquote elite schools.
Let's hope they're wrong, because this will set a precedent going forward for other schools with matters such as these. And if you're really going to pass it along as the student-athletes, they must come down heavy on North Carolina, Dan.
Yeah, well, again, we'll find out. But the release of the information was supposed to happen right as the show began, just about 3 minutes ago. So as we get information, we will be sure to pass it along to you in whatever shape or form. We'll even have some breaking news if it happens. If we're talking about something else and I see something, we'll break in. I don't have a breaking news sounder like in the old days of radio, so maybe we'll just go with this.
That is pretty breaking news, Dan. It's just shattering everything in existence, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, and some people would say that's the sound of the NCAA dealing with North Carolina to begin with.
That could be it, Dan. I like that analogy right there a lot.
Anyway, so we got a lot to get to today. We always try to start right at the top of the show with a look at what's going on here on Furman's campus, and then we expand beyond that. So we try to take care of our Furman fans, and if you're not particularly a Paladin fan, just hang on, because we got a lot more stuff coming your way. But what do we got going on campus-wide
All right, so you
now?
got a lot of things going on this weekend, both home and away for the Paladins. We're going to start with the volleyball team. They travel to Macon tonight to face the Mercer Bears at 6 o'clock. Then Samford tomorrow in Birmingham at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central. The women's soccer team, they will host Western Carolina tonight at 7 at Eugene Stone Soccer Stadium. And then on Sunday, they'll travel to Johnson City, Tennessee to face ETSU, the Buccaneers, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The cross-country team, they'll be sending parts of their team to 2 different spots. The top runners will go to Wisconsin for the Nutticum Wisconsin Invitational. The women will run tomorrow at 12:20, the men at 1 o'clock. And this will feature numerous teams from the top 10 in all of the country. Excuse me, that is today, actually. That is today, so don't want to mess that up. That they run today in about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And then there are also runners running at the HPU Vert Invitational in High Point, North Carolina as well. The men's golf team, they'll compete at the Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate Friday to Sunday. Men's tennis, they'll play at the ITA Carolinas Regional in Cary, North Carolina, Friday to Sunday. And men's soccer, they go to Lexington, Virginia tomorrow to face VMI at 1 o'clock. And then you have the Hall of Fame dinner tonight at 6 o'clock, I believe, is when it starts. And the ceremony at 7:30 down at the Hyatt Regency. You have 4 prestigious Paladins going into the Hall of Fame, which they all are well deserved of.
Yeah, and 2 of which are actually be on site here and be honored.
Oh, that's fantastic.
During the game tomorrow. So we're very much looking forward to that.
Maybe get a chat with them tomorrow during Southern Fried Cotton Tailgate Show.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah,
it just depends on their schedule, because I can promise you that I'm really far down on the. On the list of important people who are going to be shaking hands.
Yeah. I'm just throwing a line out there, hoping someone
right.
catches it. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
You got to fish every once in a while. What about trivia?
All right, trivia question. Now the topic is going to involve Furman football and VMI.
Okay.
What is Furman's longest winning streak against Virginia Military Institute? The VMI Keydets.
I'm going to guess it's double digits.
You're right about that.
Okay.
You're right about that.
And then beyond that, we'll just kind of wait and see what happens as far as the listeners and viewers have. You
Absolutely.
Can leave your guesses in the Facebook Live comments section or any of the other comment sections that we have out there. And depending on the platform in which you've got us tuned in on, and then we'll give the answer coming up at the end of the show, and you get your choice of an attaboy or a pat on the back if you get it right, because we're just that generous around here. It's 10:07. We're going to take our first break. We'll come back and spend some time talking about Furman and VMI here tomorrow. What's at stake for both teams, and can the Paladins keep the momentum rolling in the right direction against the winless Keydets? We'll do that when we come back. But first, as always, the show is brought to you each and every day by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company, located in Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville, just a couple of miles from campus here, as a matter of fact. Great food, even better people. And when we get an opportunity during this time of year, between now and through the end of Thanksgiving, it reminds you about the special seasonal sandwich. It's a turkey cranberry sandwich that they've added to the menu for this time of year. Stop by, thank them for doing what they do to sponsor this program and helping us get off on a solid foundation. And we'll be hearing a lot more about them, of course, as we go on through the course of the day. We will be back. More about Atlanta Bread in this commercial break upcoming. And you're watching and listening to The Dan Scott Show.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. I'm Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting. And we have just gotten the, I guess, official word from the NCAA off of their website. Now, right now, nothing we see says anything about penalties. But basically, I think the worst fears of most of the rest of the Atlantic Coast Conference have been realized. It looks like North Carolina basically is going to get off pretty much scot-free because, according to the NCAA's release, a Division I Committee on Infractions hearing panel could not conclude that the University of North Carolina violated NCAA academic rules when it made available deficient Department of African and Afro-American students paper courses to the general student body, including student athletes.
That's just a joke, Dan. That's a joke.
They did go on to say the panel found 2 violations in the case, the former department chair and a former curriculum secretary failing to cooperate during the investigation. Here's a quote from Greg Sankey, the panel's chief hearing officer and the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. He says, quote, while student athletes likely benefited from the so-called paper courses offered by North Carolina, the information available in the record did not establish that the courses were solely created, offered, and maintained as an orchestrated effort to benefit student athletes. The panel is troubled by the university's shifting positions about whether academic fraud occurred on its campus and the credibility of the Cadwalder report, which it distanced itself from after initially supporting the findings. However, NCAA policy is clear. The NCAA defers to its member schools to determine whether academic fraud occurred, and ultimately the panel is bound to making decisions within the rules set by the membership.
Sounds like the NCAA's got their tail caught between their legs on that one, Dan.
There's the release. That's just the first 3 or 4 paragraphs of a very long release at ncaa.org, ncaa.org. So there's nothing that I saw in there. Of course, I didn't have a chance to read the whole thing, but there's nothing I saw in there that said that they're going to get any penalties.
I read the
of any kind.
I read the entire thing pretty quickly, and they did not levy any sanctions against North Carolina in that release.
This to me is troubling, and of course
it's more than that.
And of course, we don't have all the information they have, but this case has been tried for how many years in the court of public opinion, and it's been going on back and forth literally for 3 or 4 years now. As I said earlier, it started and stopped and rebooted and restarted from the beginning again and went through the entire process. I guess my question would be, should it matter if a course was specifically created for student athletes to benefit from academic fraud? I would say no. If the course pre-existed and they figured out they could use it for purposes of academic fraud, that's just as egregious.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't just put this on. There's no class out there, Dan, that's just going to have student athletes in it. Every single class will have student athletes and just students in there. So you can't – the NCAA and UNC cannot just place the stipulation that there's no fraud here because there's more people benefiting from these so-called classes than just student athletes, because that doesn't exist. There's no classes that has just student athletes in it. So
yeah, I think across the board today you're going to see media members absolutely lambasting the NCAA over this thing. This is going to be a head-scratching controversy for a long time.
And a couple this with what the FBI have found recently with the apparel companies. Man, the NCAA is not looking too good right now, Dan.
I'm a little stunned. I really am. And it's not that, I was praying for North Carolina to be slapped with the death penalty or anything like that, but just if you've watched and listened and paid attention and read things over the course of this investigation, how does the NCAA go from basically throwing everything that North Carolina put up publicly as a defense back in its face to now saying that, well, we really couldn't rule that there was any actual academic fraud or any intent of academic fraud. It's just it sounds like, whether it was through lawyers or whether it was through something, that somebody got to somebody, and the NCAA had to take a big step backwards and end up eating a lot of crow in this thing.
They had to do something, all right, Dan, because this is just unacceptable. If these NCAA going to pass off that all these kids are student athletes and they really are true amateurs, then they got to hold them to that standard. And even if the AD department was not solely responsible for this, this is a school of North Carolina that was responsible for this, so they need, as a whole, to be responsible, and each branch needs to be held responsible for this infraction, because I can guarantee you this, that the AD department definitely knew about these so-called classes while they're being taken by their students, and so by their student athletes. So just there's no accountability whatsoever by the NCAA in the past few months.
Yeah, and now the stories are starting to come. Jeff Goodman's story is up on ESPN.com. And again, this investigation actually goes all the way back to when the NCAA started looking at the North Carolina football program in June of 2010 for impermissible benefits and academic fraud under former coach Butch Davis.
Oh, wow.
So this thing, in one shape or another, has been going on for, in effect, 7 years. And now we get to the end, and there's basically nothing. Still don't see anything that says that there's what the penalties are going to be. But you think back to the first notice of allegations that the NCAA filed against North Carolina, included lack of institutional control and also offering impermissible benefits. There was a second notice of allegations in April 2016, which still included the lack of institutional control, but left out men's basketball or football, and also did not include an impermissible benefits charge. So, how do you go from – it's like a descending staircase.
Yeah.
You go from the first allegation, notice of allegations 2014 to the next one in 2016 to now saying that they really could find no major violations here when the verdict is released in 2017. It's going to be interesting to watch how this whole thing plays out and what the
and what comes forward that the NCAA tried to use and what they couldn't use, and what the UNC Tar Heel administration used against the NCAA. Because this is, at face level, this is just it's just I'm at a loss for words, Danny, because there's just no accountability here, and it's just a joke. So,
it's almost like someone had pictures of somebody.
Something, yeah, or some kind of bad.
For the NCAA to backtrack the way that it's backtracked on this thing from where its original stance was in 2014 to what we got just moments ago is incredible and not in a good way.
Nope.
Anyway, so that's the story. If there are any sanctions, they are going to be minor. There will definitely be no taking down of championship banners or no long-range probation, it would appear, for North Carolina. It appears that they have gotten off pretty much with less than a slap of the wrist. So take it for what it's worth.
Yep. Not even really that, Dan. Not even a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, well, that's why I said less than a slap on the wrist.
No, I'm just trying to emphasize that a little more,
right.
I guess. So.
All right, let's take another break. Time to wash our
cool
brain
down
out.
a little bit.
Wash my brain out with soap, and then we'll come back and focus on Furman and VMI.
Yes, sir.
When we return. By the way, those stories are starting to flow now. ESPN.com. You'll be able to find it at CBS Sports. You'll be able to find them all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot more detail, but there you've got the gist of it. The Tar Heels. It's like the king who wore no clothes, but he never caught cold.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, we'll be back right after this.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at thecafeatwilliamshardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Welcome back to the show. It's 10:23 here on this Friday edition. Dan Scott, Forrest Stulting. Don't forget about our friends at Hall's Chop House, located in downtown Greenville. Of course, they have the original location in Charleston. This one came along later, and they both are fantastic. The one here in Greenville has just taken off in popularity like you wouldn't believe. They serve only Allen Brothers prime steaks, so you know that you're getting a top quality cut of meat. They are open 7 nights a week and Sunday all day for brunch and through dinner. They can do all kinds of meetings, breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, and they've got plenty of meeting room for you to hold those events and gatherings. Live music every night, also with brunch, and they have an outdoor patio for your enjoyment. That's Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse. Thank them for hopping on board and joining with us here on the show. All right. Let's try to wash our brains out a little bit.
Let's focus on some Furman football for a minute.
Yeah. Talk about Furman and VMI coming up here. Paladins have won 3 in a row, obviously, and VMI has not yet won here in 2017. They are 0-6 out of the gates. Furman won last year in Lexington 24-10, knocked starting quarterback Al Cobb out of the game. And I was a little surprised when I found out that Cobb did not come back. He had a last year of eligibility. He could have played one more season. He could have graduated and gone and played another season somewhere else. This kid was an NFL-style drop-back passer, gunslinger type, had a good arm. And he's just decided to give up football altogether. So the guy running the show for Scott Wachenheim's offense is a young man,
Duncan Hodges,
by the name of Duncan Hodges, who happens to be the younger brother of a Samford quarterback, Delvin Hodges. So, he's got a bit of a pedigree anyway. Offensively, though, they are struggling big time. They're only averaging 8 points a game.
Man.
And in 6 games, can you believe this? In 6 games, they have only been in the red zone 4 times. And they've only scored once. They're 1 out of 4. Third downs, they're 27%, 22 of 83. They're only averaging 211 yards a game offensively, and they're minus 12 in the turnover margin. To say it's been a struggle for the young quarterback and the rest of the Keydette offense would be an understatement.
It certainly would, yeah. I mean, this will be his 3rd start of his career this weekend, so he's not had too much experience, and obviously there's not too many weapons around him. But their defense, they've got a little bit on their side. Linebackers Ryan Francis and Alan Kratzenberg, they helped hold that Sanford offense to only 26 points and no touchdowns in the second half last weekend. So they have a shot at least keeping some points off the board for the Paladins.
Yeah, and losing 26-7 was their best performance of the year.
Absolutely.
Against Samford. The defense is giving up 41.7 points a game, 463.7 yards a game, and opposition has had its way in either direction. They've thrown for 269 yards a game. They've rushed for 194.5 yards per game. And opponents in the red zone have been there 28 times, have scored 25 of those, and have, of those 25, 20 are touchdowns. So you just look at the red zone differential through 6 games. The opponents have been there 28 times. And this is almost hard to fathom.
It really is.
That VMI has only been in the red zone, inside the opponent's 20-yard line, 4 times all season in 6 games.
Yeah, it's just unfathomable stuff there, Dan. I mean, to me, that just says that they can't sustain long drives. They're going to rely on the big plays, which have not been there all year for them because they do not lead or tops in the SoCon at all in big plays. So it's just going to be another tough day on offense for the VMI Keydettes against a pretty up-and-coming Paladin defense.
Well, and as you would imagine, their punter gets a lot of work. 30 punts already, and he's averaging 44 yards.
That's not bad, actually.
A kick, which brings to mind my good friend Cobb Oxford, who was tuned in with us earlier. I don't know if he's still here or not, but back in the Vince Dooley days at Georgia, when Georgia was so good, and Vince would build up every opponent as invincible. You like that?
Yeah, as he should.
When it came to a matchup with Vanderbilt one week, and Vanderbilt was lousy, his opening lines was something like, "They have a punter who could truly dominate the game." That's what he was. That's what he was worried about.
In that kind of accent too, Dan.
Yeah, and his Vince Dooley Southern drawl accent. So the Keydettes have a punter who can truly dominate the game.
Yeah.
If you weren't with us earlier in the week, as we kind of diagnosed some of the numbers for Furman offensively and tried to put it into comparison, I should have made a graphic about this because we have that.
Oh yeah,
we have that technology.
We'll do that on Monday once the Paladins scores 65 points on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll update it for next week and put it in graphic form. But through 6 games this season, Furman has scored 212 points and has ran for 1,288 yards. And so, as I said, I think it was Monday, I wonder how that compares with full seasons for the last 4 years, and you go back 4 years ago, that was the last time Furman went to the playoffs in 2013. A year ago, Furman only scored 277 points and rushed for 1,466 yards. I can see fairly easily bypassing the rushing yardage this week.
You should.
65 points to get to 277 would be a bit, but we'll find out. In 2015, now this is much more doable. They're only 12 rushing yards behind the entire 2015 season.
We should eclipse that mark on Saturday.
When we ran for 1,300 yards, probably do that on the first drive, maybe the first carry, and only scored 231 points. It was even worse in 2014 when the Paladins only scored 210 points and ran for 1,555 yards, and that was in a 12-game regular season. And then back to 2013 in a 14-game season, because there were 2 playoff games, scored 318 points and ran for 2,070 yards. So you can see the pace this offense is on right now to easily eclipse those categories in all 4 of those years. Now, I was talking to Clay Hendricks about it a little bit yesterday, and we were talking about, for the pregame show, what stats do you pay attention to? And he talked about, and maybe yards per attempt, and if they have a sack specialist who maybe gets a sack in X number of sacks per play or something like that. But as we close that out, talking about the only 2 stats that matter are points scored and points allowed when you get right down to it.
Absolutely, because you got to win the ball game, and that's when you get down to the nitty-gritty, essentially, points is what matters the most.
Yep, it sure does.
And just to kind of follow up on some of those offensive numbers a little bit, the Paladins are averaging 424 yards per game, 214 on the ground, 210 in the air. We've scored 40-plus points the last 3 weeks. That's the first time since 2005. We lead the SoCon in third down conversion rating with 51%. Third fewest penalties in the FCS as well. Then P.J. Blazejowski, he leads in passing yards per attempt in the FCS, 11.3, and a passer rating of 183 right now. So pretty good stuff on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, the last 3 games, the Paladins have only surrendered 95 yards on the ground on 82 attempts. Combined, yeah. And so that's almost a yard per rush. That is just unfathomable stuff there, Dan. And 20 sacks total and 14 in the last 3 games.
Yeah, they've been getting it done. They're giving up, obviously, some yardage.
Yeah, in the air especially.
But finding ways to get it done and making teams be one-dimensional. When you do that, you're going to give up yardage in the passing game. But they've done a good job of in one sense, playing between the 20s and look, outscoring opponents and playing with young guys who in a lot of circumstances really aren't ready to play on a regular basis at this level, but injuries have kind of dictated they've had to. But it's been a next man up mentality. He said they've been able to increase their depth by the way they practice.
Yep.
And so they've been able to withstand these injuries. And as he pointed out to me yesterday, it's just been interesting to watch because it seems like the injuries are all happening at the same position. Went through the rash early with the injuries at the linebacker position. Now it's cornerback and running back.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about on the Southern Fried Cotton pregame show tomorrow. So it's something that every football team deals with. It is more magnified when you're a football team playing as many as 24, 25 freshmen in a season, and yet the beat just continues to roll on, and I anticipate it'll roll on this week as well.
Absolutely, Dan. I mean, I expect nothing less than a pretty big win from the Paladins this weekend, hopefully by 30, 40 points. Just kind of making another huge statement this weekend to the SoCon that we are for real. We're not just on a little nice 3-game winning streak and perhaps lucky, but no, we want to establish that we are a force to reckon with for the remaining 4 games after VMI.
All right, let's move on to the rest of college football before we take another break, and then we'll come back and do the final two things after that.
That
but
sounds good to me.
Time to look at some potential upsets.
Yeah. All right.
First, can we remind folks of our picks from yesterday?
Absolutely. All right.
See, I don't write these down, so I'm having to take your word for it if I don't remember a pick.
There's always a tape, Dan.
Yeah.
There's always the tape. But the first game you want to highlight was Texas and Oklahoma. We both picked Oklahoma in that game.
Oklahoma.
Game 2, Auburn goes to LSU. I picked Auburn. You picked LSU.
Yeah, and I said there was no reason to pick LSU, and that was the reason I was picking LSU. Okay.
I like that a lot. And then Georgia Tech travels to Coral Gables to face the Miami Hurricanes. I picked Miami. I believe you picked Miami as well.
Yeah, I did. So only one difference in that one.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll see what we get in these three games here. Number 17, Michigan travels to Indiana this weekend. The Wolverines are still without QB Wilton Spate. The Hoosiers have a really good secondary. And last weekend, the backup quarterback for Michigan, O'Korn, threw 3 INTs. And I think that's going to be the difference this weekend. Michigan turnovers. They had 5 last weekend against Michigan State. And plus the Hoosiers have a solid offense. They get 30 points per game, 408 yards per game as well. So I'm picking the Hoosiers to upset Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines.
Is this game in Indiana?
In Indiana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, all the stars seem to be aligning for Indiana, don't they? Wow. I'm going to take Michigan.
Well, okay. All right.
I don't know that Indiana's ready for prime time yet.
Mm-hmm. They showed what they could do against Ohio State in that week 1, but couldn't quite pull it off. But I think that game is going to help them propel to a big win on Saturday.
We'll find out.
Game number 2, number 6 TCU versus Kansas State. Now the Wildcats must slow this game down, and they must establish the run early and must stop the run on defense as well and make Kenny Hill escape the pocket and put some pressure on him. But TCU has had some trouble running the ball the past few weeks against West Virginia and Oklahoma State. And if they can't run it, I think it'll be a lot closer than it should be. And after 2 big wins against Oklahoma State and West Virginia, this could be a letdown game for the Horned Frogs. But I'm going to pick the Horned Frogs to win this game, even though a lot of things are pointing towards a possible upset in Kansas State.
Yeah, and did we not learn last week that the horned frog is actually not a frog?
We did.
Yeah. That's a lizard that, when agitated, it can shoot blood out of its eyes.
I mean, it's kind of like the Colorado buffaloes. There are no buffalo in America. They're all bison.
Yeah.
So,
but
fun fact for you right there.
Yeah, but that aside, I TCU.
Yeah,
I'll take TCU.
Game number 3. This may seem strange, but FSU versus Duke.
Okay.
All right. Got ahead of myself there. But this may seem strange, but anytime Duke has a chance to beat the powerful powerhouse program of FSU, I think it's could be an upset, even though FSU is 1-3 and Duke has a winning record right now. FSU has 3 areas that they struggle in mightily: turnovers, penalties, and slow starts. And Duke has a pretty balanced attack on offense with Daniel Jones at quarterback and Sean Wilson at running back. And FSU has had an up-and-down defense this year. They've been able to stop the run for the most part, but if they can't stop the pass, that'll open up the running game up the middle. But if Duke can't establish that run game, man, that's just going to leave that Florida State defense chomping at the bit to go after the Blue Devils. And I think Jimbo Fisher will not allow his team to go 1-4, so I'm picking the FSU Seminoles in a very close game down in Durham.
You know, my intent was to pick Florida State in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as how we only have 1 game different out of the first 5, I'm going to take Duke.
All right, I like that.
I'm going to go out on the limb yet again, because somebody has to be willing to gamble in this group. I'll go out on the limb. I'll take Duke at home to send Florida State to an unfathomable and unheard of and Unjimbo Fisher like 1-4 in the season.
It's going to be interesting because I know Miami went down to Durham a couple weeks ago and trounced them. Then Miami just barely escaped FSU last week, and so it's going to be a good test to see where both Miami and Duke are after those 2 games past 2 weekends.
All right, so that's a look at your potential college football upsets. Incidentally, in the final wash on this NCAA North Carolina thing, there will be no penalties. Nothing. No probation, no slap on the wrist, nothing. All of that time, all of that effort, all of that money, everything, and there will be 0 penalties.
I just think that the NCAA needs just to restart everything. I mean, because this is just a joke.
Just hit the reset
button. Yeah,
button.
because they just waved the flag of student athletes and amateurism all so high and so proud, but yet they just can't make the schools accountable for making them actual students. And so if you can't do that, get rid of that label and the amateurism, and just no accountability here whatsoever. I don't like it one bit. Even being a hater of North Carolina, this is just bad for colleges all across the country, not even dealing with sports in general. This is just sports aside, likings aside. This is just not good for colleges and universities whatsoever in the NCAA, not holding schools accountable for their actions in the classroom, which is far and beyond anything bigger than what happens on the field. So it's not setting a good example for the young kids right now at all. So
that's their story, and they're sticking to it. All right, as we go to break, a reminder about CPR Cell Phone Repair, Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville, right down the road from campus here. You see the number 282-9097. Got a busted cell phone screen. Well, they can take care of it for you. They did mine, did fantastic work on it, got my iPhone done. I got the graphic up. I'm showing my phone to the camera that you people can't see.
I can see it, though, Dan.
See? The phone.
There it is.
But anyway, it's been a long week.
It's Friday, Dan.
Yes, it is. Last time I checked. They got mine done in about a half an hour. They can do all sorts of phones and tablets. They can do computers and gaming systems, and not just the screens. They can also replace the I also got the wrong graphic up now. Also can replace the hard drives. I need a reset button.
Let's go to break.
Yeah, 282-9097 for CPR Cell Phone Repair in Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville. We will indeed go to break and come back with more right after this. Stay with us.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
10:44 and down the stretch we come. Final segment of the show and final segment of the week. Dan Scott, Forrest Stulting here on the Dan Scott Show. I got our names right. I may not have
That's
gotten
something.
anything else
There
right
you go.
going into the last break. Got to remind folks quickly about the Walk a Mile project. You can see on your screen there Heath Burdett and his folks in the Anderson area have been taking the initiative to do missions work from a Christian church perspective. They spend a lot of time in Guatemala building houses for the homeless, finding clean drinking water sources, which, in a lot of countries is an issue, food sources and that kind of thing. It's just a tremendous undertaking. And they also equip other individuals and organizations to do the same thing. They train you how to do it, give you the right tools, the right training. Find out more by going to the website you see there on the screen, thewhamproject.org, W-A-M, thewhamproject.org, and a lot more information on the website about how you can get involved. All right, it's 15 minutes to go. We've got things 2 and 3 to get through.
Thing 2. The Cubs sneak past the Nationals and advance to the NLCS for the 3rd straight year in a row. Man, the Nationals, they just can't buy a break. They got some pretty unfathomable stuff here.
Is that from the Department of Redundancy Department?
I think so.
The 3rd straight year in a row?
That is correct. Absolutely. Yeah, you caught me there, Dan. You caught me there. Well done. Well done. But for the Nationals,
I spent a lot of my life in the Department of Redundancy Department. So,
but the Nationals, this is the 3rd time in 5 years where they've lost a Game 5 in the NLDS. It's on the 5-year anniversary of when they had a 6-0 lead against the Dodgers in 2012, and they lost 9-7, and they lost 9-8 yesterday. There's so many things I could talk about right here, but I'm just going to kind of give a short little rundown of what happened. The Cubs, the Nationals, the Cubs are up 1-0. The Nationals hit 2 home runs, one via Daniel Murphy in the second, and then one a 3-run home run by Michael Taylor in the second inning, putting up 4 runs. And then the Cubs went on to score 7 unanswered runs in the 3rd inning and the 5th inning. Really, that 5th inning was the big one for the Nationals and the Cubs, really. Russell had double to score 2. Then Baez came up the bat, and he struck out swinging on his backswing, hit the catcher Matt Wieters in the mask. It was a pass ball. Then Wieters subsequently threw the ball into the right field. That scored another run. And so, but the whole crux of the matter is that once the batter swings and makes contact with the catcher, the play is dead and it's a strike.
Yeah. And apparently this is not a reviewable play.
It's not for some reason, but it's pretty clear to me that you can review that it's an easy reviewable play.
And the backswing was not hard enough to knock the mask off of Wieters, so it's entirely possible because of the view the umpire had, especially with the ball going through the legs and everything. He may not have seen the bat hit the mask, but it did. And here is the rule book.
Yep.
Here's what the rule book says about that. If a batter strikes at a ball and misses and swings so hard he carries the bat all the way around and in the umpire's judgment unintentionally hits the catcher or the ball in back of him on the backswing, which is what happened, it shall be called a strike only, not interference, but the ball will be dead and no runner shall advance on the play. That's the call that should have been made, the call that wasn't made, and it ended up costing the Nationals another run.
Yeah, it sure did. And that was a big run, as we can see, because the Nationals lost by 1 run. And some other big things to point out, Jukins also had 2 critical wild pitches in the 1st and 3rd innings that allowed 2 runs to score. The Wieters had a few pass balls, and Trey Turner was thrown out at home as well with the infield drawn in the 3rd inning, which was a really bad read on his part because it was hit right at Javier Baez, and just not a good read to get thrown out with the infield in right there. A misplay by Worth in the 6th, I believe. It was a looping line drive, and he slid with it, so he slid down to his knees, and it just went right to the left of his glove and unable to catch it. And Scherzer, man, he did not pitch well at all. I mistakenly thought that he was starting last night, but he was only on 2 days rest instead of 3 days rest, so he was not going to start that game. He was only going to come in relief. And he just did not have anything going for him last night. And then Jose Lobaton got picked off in that 8th inning at first base. Was huge because they had runners on first and second, and a chance to tie the lead with Trey Turner up to bat at the top of the lineup. But then he got picked off on a reviewable play.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was initially ruled he was safe, but then slightly his foot came off the bag for just a split second, and the tag was still on him. And so he was called out, which is a correct call, but just a really tough call for the Nationals.
Yeah, and I've seen not just last night, but I've seen some of the national writers say that they hate that call if the guy's foot comes off the bag for just a split second. That it's the letter of the law, but it's not the spirit of the law. And I disagree. You know, you have to stay on the bag.
There's a reason why there's a bag there.
Yeah, and if your foot comes off of it, I don't care if it's for a half a second or I don't care if it's for 30 seconds. If the tag is still on you, you're out, and that's just a matter of playing fundamental baseball.
Exactly. I mean, you got to be able to be able to slide correctly and hang on to the bag. You're not just sliding; you got to slide with the intention of staying on the bag. There's more to just sliding to the bag and getting there first.
Yeah,
it's the act of completing the play essentially, and not just starting the play.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to correct something I said about that 5th inning. The Baez non-call actually led to 2 more runs scoring.
Okay.
The one that scored on that play and then one scored later
in
the inning as well.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been the 3rd out and the inning would have been over.
You're right.
So they scored 2 runs from that moment that should not have scored in that inning.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the bottom line is the Nats just can't get out of the first round of the playoffs, and the Cubs for the 2nd straight postseason living a charmed life in elimination games. You remember last year how they were able to win the games that mattered most all the way to and including the 7th game of the World Series, even when Aroldis Chapman had blown the save by giving up the 2-run home run in the 8th inning that tied the game in Cleveland. So they have somehow, some way figured out how to win and not be phased in these elimination games, and that's the mark of a champion.
Absolutely,
I can't believe I said
it. And when Wade Davis, he had pitched 7 outs last night to get the save, which has not been done in many years. I can't remember who was the last one to do it, but I believe it was about 10, 15 years ago. But really, really good stuff from him. 3 strikeouts on the night, only gave up 2 hits.
What were the announcers criticizing like they did when Craig Kimbrell was asked to come in and not start a clean inning?
I didn't hear any criticizing from those announcers. But yeah, and just another thing I want to point out too is that a quote from Jimmy Rollins in the postgame I thought was just hilarious. He said, "Somebody had to win this poopy pants game," because both teams were kind of not taking the bull by the horns and just kind of not playing up to their potential on both sides of the ball, especially on defense. There's some lapses on defense throughout the entire game that were just mind-boggling that you could see in a postseason game. So I thought that was really funny by Jimmy Rollins to say that on the TBS postgame show.
Right. Okay. You say so.
All right.
So the league championship series matchups are now officially set.
Yep.
Beginning with Houston and the Yankees tonight down in Houston, Game 1.
8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, and then the Dodgers will host the Cubs tomorrow night. I believe that will be 9 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, Eastern, and 6 o'clock Pacific Coast time.
Okay. Thing 3?
8 o'clock Eastern. Excuse
8 o'clock.
me.
Okay.
Yeah. Thing 3. Some more drama involving Ezekiel Elliott's status. Yesterday, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans reinstated the 6-game suspension the NFL levied against Elliott originally. And it was a 2-1 verdict by a judge panel. And the 6-game suspension is a baseline for a first offense with the domestic violence. However, the year-long saga will probably continue because the Cowboys are off this week, and the NFLPA has time to file a motion on Elliott's behalf to halt the suspension once again. And after the suspension was given to Elliott, a district court had originally ruled that said that there's an injunction to stop the suspension because it was unfair to Elliott.
Well, you say that, and then you look back at the Tom Brady situation, and ultimately the courts upheld that. It took an extra year.
Yeah.
He was supposed to serve the suspension at the beginning of the 2015 season. He ended up serving it at the beginning of last year after all the court appeals were exhausted. So this thing may not be over, but ultimately I believe Elliott will have to serve the suspension.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so because, I mean, this is just we all know he did it. And essentially, right now we're just going through legal mumbo-jumbo and fighting what's supposedly fair and not or fair and not fair. But I think when you get down to the nitty-gritty, he should serve this 6-game suspension because there is evidence of him hitting his girlfriend.
And there's the precedent of the suspensions being upheld through the court battles, as we mentioned with Tom Brady. All right, it's 10:55. You got some on this dates?
Oh, I sure do, Dan. All right.
Of course you do.
I got quite a few, actually, so hopefully you can buckle up for this one. 1903, the Boston Americans win the first World Series. It's a best-of-9.
Over the Pittsburgh Pirates?
Yeah, 5-3.
At the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, they have a baseball from that very first World Series.
Do they really? That's incredible.
Yeah,
I don't remember that when I went there in 2008, but I'm sure
I saw it in 2004. It was glass encased.
I would hope so. Yeah, that's some pretty remarkable.
No, I mean
stuff.
we had it out. We were tossing it around,
That's awesome. 1960, the famous Bill Mazeroski home run in the bottom of the ninth against Ralph Terry and the Yankees to win Game 7.
Casey Stengel's last game as the Yankees manager.
That was correct. 1971, the Orioles and Pirates play the first night game in the World Series, a 4-3 victory for the Pirates. 1995, I had to put this one in after the Bill Mazeroski fact. The Yankees win their 35th pennant. In 2000, Rivera breaks Whitey Ford's record for consecutive scoreless innings pitched, 33 in a third inning in the World Series. 2001, Jeter, his famous flip play, to get Jeremy Giambi out at home plate. Shane Spencer overthrew both cutoffs.
Now this is not on this date in Yankees history. This is on this date.
Well, when you play so many games in October, it just kind of happens to fall.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, all right. In 2002, the Angels win their first AL pennant in franchise history. 2006, Mark Kiger makes his MLB debut in the ALCS. And he's the first player to do so since Bug Holiday in 1885. And believe it or not, that will be his only appearance in the MLB. He will make no regular season appearances in his career.
Bug Holiday?
No, Mark Kiger.
Oh, okay.
The guy who debuted in 2006. 2012, Derek Jeter collects his 200th postseason hit. And then in 2011, the Cubs clinched their first postseason series victory in Wrigley Field. That's pretty astounding to me because they were playing at Wrigley Field for so long.
Yeah.
So
I think we may have to put a moratorium on the word Yankees for a week or so here.
I like it
on the show.
Well, when you're so good, what can you do?
Yeah.
So
I got you. All right. What about the trivia question
All right.
answer?
The topic is Furman and VMI series. The question is, what is Furman's longest winning streak against VMI? And the answer is 21, not 22. From 1980 to 2002, and they outscored the Keydets 849 to 258.
Ouch.
Yeah, so almost quadrupled their scoring output there. So not a good number of years for the Keydets there.
Yeah, not a good look at all. Well, that just leaves us to remind you about the Furman VMI broadcast tomorrow, 11:45 with the Southern Fried Cotton Tailgate Show, and the kickoff about 1:04 p.m. on the Furman IMG Sports Network, which is Fox Sports 1440. It'll also be available here on the Campus FM 95.9, on TuneIn Radio, on FurmanPaladins.com, and yes, via Booth Cam. You'll be able to watch the inner workings of the booth and listen to the radio broadcast on Facebook Live.
And see the thumb in action.
See the thumb in action, yes, sir. We'll have a jet-lagged David Cobb back with us after his trip to London. And, of course, the broadcast also available on ESPN3 with Bob Mahalik, Sam Weish, and Scott Cole on the sidelines. Hope you'll join us for that. And we look forward to coming back here on Monday and recapping another big weekend in college football, which we hope is going to and expect is going to include another Furman win.
Completely agree with you there, Scott, Dan.
Thank you for stalling for us.
I'm not sure why I do that.
I don't either.
Yeah. I think Scott Cole was in my head for a second, and then
he gets in everybody's head.
Exactly, he does. It's weird, man. It's weird.
That'll wrap it up for us. Thank you for your attention today. Sometimes I wonder why you do, but we appreciate it anyway.
Yes, sir.
And we will see you again on Monday. For Forrest, I'm Dan, saying God bless you. So long, everybody.
I hope it's not as bad as it looked.